This is the Talk Dairy Issues, and you're with me, Memory Banda. Today, we'll be discussing about how mental health affects adolescents and the youth, and how we can cope up with the new normal during the COVID-19 pandemic. We are at Zaluso Studio, and today I'm joined by Tendai and Chilungamo. Tendai is a youth development practitioner and works with the U.S. Embassy as a cultural affairs specialist. She is a 2017 Mandela Washington Fellow, and she is also a columnist in the Malawi news Gore Digging with Tendai. Chilungamo is a psychologist and a lecturer at Kamu's College of Nursing. She is also a founder of Mentor to Mentor Initiative. She is a mental health advocate. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Mental health is a huge topic, and too often it is swept under the carpet. And most of the times, we never talk about our mental health issues. When we are talking about mental health, what is it? Because too often people will confuse. So I want you to clarify to us, what do we mean when we say mental health?
All right, so when we talk about mental health, all we are talking about is a state of well-being where a person is able to realize their potential, the person is able to cope with daily stresses, and this person is also able to be productive in the things that they do. So in other words, we're looking at the psychological, emotional, and the behavioral well-being of a human being. Yeah.
Just like an extension, when we say, someone is mentally healthy, it's basically saying that, in life you're going to meet a lot of things which are going to hinder on your mentality, mind, or should we say mind. So basically when we say take care of your mental health, it's basically take care of your mind. Whatever you come across, you should be able to say, okay, this is happening to me, it's normal, I have what it takes to fight it, but also if I can't fight it, there are some resources and people, experts like Chilungamo, who can come in to help me to say, come back, this is life. Go, forge ahead no matter what situation you come across.
Why is mental health issues never talked about? I'll start with you, Tendai.
I guess we haven't yet understood the impact that mental health is having on people. Because if we did, we could have said, let's prioritize. For example, if we look at COVID, when it started, affecting people, that's when we were like, actually, this is a problem. Let's start talking about it. So maybe we haven't yet reached that point. Hence, we are not prioritizing mental health. Secondly, I would also talk about, it being a taboo. I can't go out and say, I'm struggling with my, with handling life issues. People will be like, hey, look at this, you look at this person, which is also leading us to the next
It's
point.
more of like you deal with your own issues.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and I guess maybe Chilungamo can also agree with me, that's why for men it becomes now an issue. Because for men we have said, it's a taboo for a man to say, even cry. We'll be like, Mamuna Salira. Those are, that's our culture, right? Those are our norms. So we have normalized it being a taboo, something that you can't come across. And lastly, I would say the stigma, which is also related to it being a taboo, the stigma that comes to, mental health issues. For example, if we look at the recent suicide that happened, there was a girl in Deza who had committed a suicide because there was, she had broken up with her boyfriend. So, even the comments that were coming out on the Facebook pages, people, the way they were reacting, I was like, if this girl, for example, if this suicide hadn't been, if the attempt hadn't been, if she hadn't, if it hadn't been successful and she was alive, if she saw these comments, I'm sure she would have gone back to that deep hole, which she was just coming from.
And you both inspire me. You both talk about mental health issues. So would like to understand, why did you start talking about this major topic? What inspired you both?
Okay, thanks, Memory. But I think in my case, it would probably be different maybe from Tendai's.
Yes.
But in my profession as a lecturer, I have interacted with a lot of young people. And I think that sort of gives me a privilege to understand the kind of challenges that they meet. So apart from just lecturing, I offer free counseling services to students. So in my interaction with the students, that's when I realized the magnitude of this issue, to say there's a huge gap, there's a lot of mental health problems that the young ones are meeting. So in my work with the adolescents or just the young people, I realized that it's huge, the gap is there. And so I thought I have a responsibility, also being someone who understands, who studies psychology. So I realized the impact that mental health untreated mental health issues, the impact it has on just the daily life of a person. So I think from there, that's when I realized to say, I think I need to be one of the people who are going to stand up and just to start to talk about these issues, to let people know what it is about, and also maybe to just help out when someone reaches out and to say, I'm facing this.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was basically about contributing to the efforts of raising awareness about mental health. Sometimes people don't know. We just say, oh, you know what, you're going through a hard time, but maybe you are actually facing a mental challenge. So I wanted to also tell people that, you know, in my journey, I've also faced situations where I'm like, okay, I'm just going to give up, or maybe my mind, I'm going crazy. But accepting and saying, you know what, I also face this, and maybe if you look up to me, you should know that it's okay to feel that way, and you can, with help, with support from friends, you can actually bounce back.
How do you see at it as being a teacher and a lecturer? How do you think should teachers handle students when it comes to issues of, let's say, commenting about their bodies, or maybe just in overall about mental health?
Unfortunately, I feel like at every level we have lacked mental health support for people in general, despite the age that the person is at. From the time a person is a toddler, I think culturally we haven't really been given this mentality or perspective to say the psychological aspect of a person is important. So like I told you, when we talk about mental health, we're talking about the health of the mind of the person. We're talking about their behavior. We're talking about also their feelings. So I feel like we have concentrated more only on the physical aspect of a person. So as long as we're giving someone food, as long as we're giving someone education, we feel they're good to go. But we forget that there's another aspect of that person. There's a feeling part of the person. There's a thinking part of that person that we also need to take care of. So when we talk about mental health issues, even the teachers need to be made aware of how this contributes even to the performance of that particular child. Unfortunately, sometimes it even goes all the way. The impact that you have on the mental health of that particular student, it can go all the way to when they start working. So something you said, or the way you impacted negatively their mental health, it has gone with them all the way to even the way they're going to perform in a working place. So the teachers, they also have a part to play. Actually, it's a huge part. Because if those teachers inspire or boost the mental health of the student, actually the results will be amazing, because they are giving the education aspect, they're giving, even physically, you are being able to make sure that the child is well. If they are sick, you send them maybe to a clinic or to a medical person, take care of them. And at the same time, you want to understand what is this child going through? If I say this thing, how is it going to impact that child? So it's a responsibility of teachers, no matter at what level, to contribute physically, psychologically, even emotionally to that particular student.
Amazing. And that message goes to everyone, the teachers, the parents, and the alike. And we are going through a crisis right now. And the COVID-19 pandemic, as we talked about, has really affected everyone. I'd like to understand what is the magnitude of how young people, especially adolescent girls and young women, are affected. Tendai.
Okay, so you're right to say that COVID-19 has affected everyone, whether young or old or people. But when it comes to young people, I guess you should understand that as young people, we are God-driven people. So firstly, I would say that it has shook our routine. You know, we can't do those things that made us happy. We can't go on those adventures. We can't go to school. We can't maintain that life that we used to have. So it's really, I would say that has affected us a lot, and it's really hard. Secondly, I would also say that when it comes to loss, if you look at most of the people who have died, most of them have been those in the elderly, I would say, age strata, right? So for most young people, I've seen my friends have lost their parents. They have lost their guardians. And so it has really been a hard time. And for when we look at other young people as well, loneliness has also hit them as well. So when it comes to loss and staying at home, it hasn't been very easy. And sometimes when it comes to adapting to life, we have had to adapt fast, and not everyone has been able to do that. We talk of, you know, online distancing, or like online learning, right? Or should say distance learning. We just assume that
for
everyone is going to be able to do it.
But then it's so hard, you know how when you look at the poverty level, and data is really expensive.
Someone doesn't have a laptop. They can't even afford to have a 1 GB bundle to do those studies. But we'll assume, let's stay at home, let's go to school. Not everyone is managing to do that. So I would say basically that has been, like, that has taken a huge toll on young people. And also I would say that the business, not being able to be productive has also been hard. People have lost their jobs. people haven't, businesses are not doing well as they used to. So that is actually something which young people are feeling the brunt so much.
And I really don't have the specific data, but currently it has been revealed that early pregnancy rate has really gone up. At the same time, like child marriage has also gone up. Maybe you can comment on that part as well, Tendai.
Okay, so I don't know if I would be in a better position to comment on that, but I would, but I would say that basically it's not only in Malawi, it's elsewhere as well. When it comes to COVID-19, you know, staying at home, there are so many things. When we give the direction to say stay safe, stay at home, it doesn't stop at that. There are many challenges that come with it. For most girls, staying at home is a death sentence. You go home, there's nothing there. So what are you going to do? It's about, I would say, coping mechanism, right? So for some people, we go home to a good support structure. But for some young women, or even if we could talk of young men, you go home and there's nothing there. So what does that push you? It pushes you maybe to attach yourself to someone. So at that end, you are at risk of getting pregnant early, or maybe because there's nothing at home, your parents would actually encourage you to go and get married because there's nothing here. So I would say really, like, there are going to be a lot of losses when it comes to COVID-19, and
it's more like we've really moved backwards in terms of interventions on the ground.
So I would say that's one of the challenges also, and it's really sad, yeah.
Okay, so we are going to take a short break, and when we get back, we are going to discuss further on how the young people themselves can take out and start conversations around mental health issues, and how the government and CSOs can step in and start an open conversations on issues of mental health. And welcome back. We'll continue from where we stopped from. And right now, I'll start with you, Shilongamo. Why has there been an increased case of drug and substance use amongst young people?
Memory, you should understand that every person has coping mechanisms of stress. So when you face a stressful situation, you have your own ways of dealing with that particular stress. Right now, we're facing a situation where a lot of things have changed. Yes. For others, it's easier for them to adjust to the change, whilst for some, they will need to find good coping mechanism for them to actually go through the process, the changes. Yeah. Unfortunately, other people go for substance abuse or substance use as a way of coping with what they're going through. So now, being a time where a lot of young people are home, they don't have school to do, they are not allowed to do most of the things they used to do. Yeah. For some, it's a way of coping with the stress that they're facing. Others are facing financial issues. Others, maybe they have relationship issues. So they're trying to find a way of coping. For others, it's just the news as well, the COVID-19 related news. So for some, it may be because they're trying to cope with the situation. Unfortunately, they're using wrong coping mechanisms. Yeah. And we can also look at the time that people have on their hands. The young people have a lot of time. For some, it's maybe experimenting, they're exploring to see. For others, well, maybe because they have friends who are influencing them to do it. So peer pressure as well. So that there may be a case whereby substance use may be on the rise during this time because of all these things that are going around and people are trying to cope. Unfortunately, that's not a good coping mechanism.
And what do you think can be done? I'll start with both of you, but I'll start with Tendayo. What do you think can be done? Because it's really tragic.
Yeah.
So I think basically what we can do is to understand that the decision to say I want to stop drinking comes from the individual. So parents, we can't beat alcohol from kids, like we can't beat it out of them. What we can do is to maybe remind them about their dreams and say how this behavior is going to deter them from achieving their goals. Sometimes also having that discussion is hard. So that's where I guess experts like Chilungamo in the field who can actually help us to say, okay, maybe let's have a discussion with them and and providing a supportive environment to tell them that we love them and it's okay that they are struggling. We know that they are, turning to alcohol as a coping mechanism, but there is help. And at this point, I guess I will also throw it back to you, Chilu, in terms of like the structure. I know that maybe in other countries they do really well. They have rehab centers,
Yes.
and maybe what's there in Malawi, you can
And actually, I
shed
wanted
more light
to
on
ask
that.
the same. Like in Malawi, actually, this is my first time meeting a psychologist. You know, so you know, I'm in town, and we really don't have those structures.
Unfortunately. But we have a St. John of God. I know they also offer those services whereby someone can go for like a rehabilitation program. And also, maybe I should take it back to what Tendai said, to say, first of all, it has to start with the individual. So the problem is if the individual doesn't realize that I have a problem, then you have problems, you know, helping them. But I think it's first of all trying, not even trying, but teaching our young people good coping mechanisms of stress. Because for others, they feel like that's their only way out. That's the only thing they do. Unfortunately, no, it's not. And it also has an impact, like a negative impact on their mental health. So they need to be made aware on how that has an impact of their mental health, number one. And number two, they also have to, like, if they feel it's gotten to a point whereby they've lost control, because there's a level where the person realizes it's a problem and they can easily stop. But now when it becomes a disorder, they don't even have the control to stop it. So if you're someone who is close, if you're a parent, if you're like a guardian, you're the one sometimes to realize that this is a problem and you take action for them. So you can reach out to someone like a therapist who you know can be able to help that person accordingly. And sometimes when you go for a professional help, like where you find a mental health professional, there are other times you are going to be required to receive medication, like, you know, for you to actually be able to get better. Sometimes all you need is therapy.
So that's just someone to talk to. Maybe sometimes, maybe we're talking about going to the therapy, people start thinking about money, like, ooh, that has to be really expensive. But maybe we can also just look at, you can just have a one-to-one conversation with someone whom you can trust.
Someone you trust, you can even, that's why I was mentioning the parents, to say they also have a role. One of the things I've realized these days after talking to like a lot of young people, after offering these counseling sessions, I've realized that one of the tools that we can use, one of the strategies, is to strengthen the relationships that are there between children and their parents.
Like we should be able to talk to our parents.
Exactly. Because children sometimes are not able to talk to their parents. As a result, they continue to engage in these activities. But if they had a parent who was like supportive and they were able to talk sense into them or have a conversation, some of these things would be like avoided at an early stage. So parents they shouldn't be afraid of their children. There are parents who are afraid of talking to their children. Build that relationship, because you also can't just start from somewhere advising someone to do that or threatening them to do something when you don't have a good relationship. Sit down, reason with each other out of love. You can actually help someone to change their behavior from that perspective.
Great. And actually that comes to my next question. I've talked about at an individual level and at family level, and my next question is, how do we take it up, bringing out the conversations now at national level and in CSO organizations? What do you think can the government and the CSOs do to improve mental health?
First of all, there need to be that awareness whereby we get to make sure people understand. I know these days we're able to talk about mental health, but what about in the rural areas? Has everyone been able to understand what mental health is about? And from there also being able to provide facilities where people will have access to mental health services easily. Because at the moment we only have like one government mental health facility in Zomba where people can access, And also we can have, the government can invest into mental health and be able to allocate enough funding in the mental health, whereby now more people are going to be trained in that, because at the moment we don't have a lot of mental health professionals. And also come up with psychosocial services or just mental health services in different institutions. For example, you can have it in schools. We can equip the teachers, I don't know whether it's the teachers or just the deans or whoever is responsible for the students, they're giving them the right expertise for them to be able to deal with these students. Because some of them are there's a root cause that is causing this particular person to go and start to engage themselves in substance use. So if you give them a platform to solve that particular challenge that they have, they may not even reach that far and start to engage themselves in such behavior. So maybe we need to invest more in mental health now at a national level.
And also as a community, if I would say that it needs to start with us.
Yes.
We should stop stigmatizing against people who are coming out.
Yes.
For example, right now, I think I liked what people started doing, even about postpartum depression. I think a lot of women started sharing about how hard it is for them to, give birth and then still, feel like they're women. So we should start encouraging those conversations.
Yes.
We should start people saying that, this person, I'm doing well, I'm doing great, but there are times when I feel like I don't want to go on with life.
And we burn out.
Yes, so once we start having those conversations, I'm sure that, people who are struggling will start coming out to say, it's okay, I can be able to say, guys, I'm not fine, I need your support, I need your help.
That's the point where they realize I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So it's really great that we bring out conversations around mental health. And what could be the biggest thing that I know it has come out a lot, what the government should be what the government can do, and then I'd like to get a little bit of gist at community level, because now I'm thinking about a child who is in a certain community, they say in Manyaleni, somewhere in the north. What is it that you think can be done now at community level, Tendai?
Well, I would say it it's also about presenting the awareness, right? Making people aware that there could be someone in your community who's facing this. The leaders that we have, the chiefs, we often underestimate them, but they are they have strongholds in their community. People look up to them. So maybe teaching them also about what mental health is and the help that is there. But also structures, Chilungam was saying, as long as we have those structural problems in terms of now that even if the chief says, this kid needs help, where is he going to take them to? So we let's invest in the existing structures, as Kingdom is saying. Maybe if it's the church, the church is strong. We often underestimate, but there is power in the church.
Yes.
We can utilize the councils that are there, so that whether every community that you go, you always find a church.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
If the church, and the churches are organized as well, I think they have, maybe if it's Koma Synod, for example, the church that I come from, if it's that, you can reach out to the secretariat. They will be able to spread the message or even organize themselves for such type of trainings.
Yes.
So we can always try to look at ways of, we are resource constrained, but how can we utilize the existing
we already
structures
have.
to make change?
Great.
Even using youth groups in
Yep.
different villages where they already have those groups, but maybe just bringing in that aspect whereby when they meet, you're able to bring out that topic and also just to form support groups, whereby you realize we have 5 people who are going through the same issue. You meet them, you bring out someone who's a professional, and then the person comes, they have those meetings. It encourages them to know, I'm not alone.
In all those spaces, we can start conversations on mental health, and that's great. And we have really discussed a lot of things concerning mental health, and I hope you have really learned a lot concerning on issues of mental health. And if you are concerned about your well-being, about your mental health, there are people that you can reach out, and I would like to let you know you are not alone. We are going through stress, and when you talk about it, that's when you become healthy. That's when you actually let it out, and that's the only time when a person will know you have a problem. So let's start the conversation, let's bring it out, and you have been with me, Memory Banda. Until next time.